Okay, hello and welcome. Now, how did you feel when you were told that kids would be returning to school? I mean, let's discuss some ways to make the virus in the air and the frustration in our hearts safe again. I'm Dr. Ed. I'm just a geek dad who's obsessed about the future for our children. And I help changemakers sustain movements without burning out by coaching them on how to transform their passion into profits. Now, like many of you, my fist tightened. My heart was racing, and I was just pacing the room when I first heard that schools were resuming in person without any additional safety measures. So the reason that the government gave us was that it was good for the mental health of our students. And you can imagine like how I felt at that time, probably very similar to how you felt as well. I rage tweeted on how this had nothing to do with the mental health of our children. I mean, it's not like they're giving more funding for school counselors. There's no permission to add HEPA filters into schools because they could make things worse. And of course, we have to deal with a fear-based digital citizenship curriculum that won't prepare our children for the future. Now, I was not a fan of the people in the comments saying, oh, well, there's more deaths from opioids in Alberta. More deaths from opioids in Alberta. I mean, this is not a competition of what United Conservative policy caused more deaths. At least I think it's not. So, but the reality is I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be friends with many researchers, scientists, and generally parents that follow the science that COVID is airborne. And so today I'd like to share about air safe technology, air safe kids activities, and air safe mindsets. Yes, our mindsets also need to be air safe as well. That have really helped our family thrive in this, you can imagine, new world of Omicron. And so for everyone who is joining, thank you very much. We are back. I am very excited. We took a little bit of a hiatus for some time, but I am very excited to be back and speaking with you all right now. Now, of course, if you're joining us for the first time, say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. I am very excited. I want to keep this very interactive, and I want to make sure that I'm answering your questions. It's great to be back. Let us know where you're listening from. Yeah. All right. Cool. So, the first area that I want to talk about today is air safe technology. And I love this because, like I said, I'm a geek dad who is obsessed about the future for our children. And so I've got a lot of fun things that I want to share with you today. And I don't know if I can add this. Can I add things to my stream live? I don't know. Oh, I think I can. Oh, yes. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about. Yeah. The first thing I want to talk about, and something that I'm going to highlight. I don't know. Can I highlight things? I don't know. Doesn't matter. So the first thing I want to highlight is carbon dioxide monitoring. So like, how do we know that there's an actual issue if it's airborne? So in general, what we're finding is that parents are using devices such as the ARANET 4. I don't know if people have seen images of this, But let me show you what it looks like on my screen. Maybe this will work better. Whoop. Haha. Okay, and yeah, hopefully you can see that. So basically, it's a wireless indoor air quality monitor. It runs on its own. This is something that parents are sneaking into classrooms all over Alberta and in various places of the world because they want to know, well, what works? How do we know? And what it does is it measures the amount of carbon dioxide in the air. And why is that important? Well, the amount of CO2 shows the amount of air that was exhaled from others. So basically, how much of the air from other people are we breathing in? And so you can imagine, like outside, I don't know if you've ever seen this, like sometimes people will say they have 332 parts per million. Like I was born at 332 ppm. So it's like 300 to 400 is what you would expect to see in terms of carbon dioxide outside naturally. And the World Health Organization says to avoid anything above 1,000 ppm. And so you can imagine if it's 1,000, then you're breathing in the air of others like twice or three times. Roughly 2 to 3 times is the number that you would expect to get. Now, this is interesting because schools in Alberta generally run at around, I would say, 900 to 1,000 ppm. And we've seen some documents directly from parents who have like snuck in these sensors. And so we know like roughly what the current rate is. And so what can you do about this? Well, one is just simple filters. So one is like the HEPA filters that you see. We don't call them HEPA filters. They're actually just standard like air filters. And they're what a lot of schools are already saying is like, oh, we've upgraded to something like, so we've upgraded to something like the MERV 13 air filters. And an example of this would be like even with kids in the same classroom, the reality is they're still going to have to take off their masks and in order to have snacks and to have lunch. So the best solution, of course, would be to have like HEPA filters in the schools. But here's something that is really important about this is that the larger the scale, the less control that we as individuals have, right? And the harder it is to make decisions. And I think that this is really important when we're talking about like air safe technology, is that the best solutions out there are often like as you get closer, like smaller and smaller scale, like to the size of a classroom. Like, so for example, some schools have installed Corsi Rosenthal boxes. So if those, if you have not seen an image of one of those, let me show you. There's a lot of great examples of that. You just search and, you know, these are examples. So what they are is a series of MERV 13 20 by 20 filters connected to a box fan. Usually there's just 4 of them. You can put these into a classroom and you can already see like there's a number of teachers that have already set this up for themselves. And if you can control this at a classroom level, that's one option for keeping yourself safe. But of course, this particular proposal has been rejected by both the province and some school boards. And the reasons that they used was that they said, oh, well, it takes too much power or the filters need to be replaced eventually. And yes, like every, I believe like 3 to 6 months, I think it's 6 months, like it's good to have a replacement filter. But especially in times like today, like this is definitely better than nothing. And it can make a big difference for the amount of circulation that happens in the typical classroom. And so, for example, for myself, I'm using a MERV 13 furnace filter. I mean, that's easy. You can just slip one in into your furnace. You can install it at home. They're better than the standard filters that you might have at your house, but they're not the MERV 17 level of a typical HEPA filter. So there's a bunch of levels above before you would need to get to HEPA. And so why don't a lot of schools have HEPA? It's because that you can't just use the existing air filtration system. You actually need a new one. You need to replace it, or you need to have something upgraded, or you need to have a different method of filtering the air because most furnaces can't handle it. Like, for example, my furnace at home couldn't handle it. So the next option is a personal battery-powered HEPA filter, like this one. This is called the Westinghouse portable NCCO filter. So you can see it's not that big. Like, it's actually pretty reasonable in size. I hope that is fairly clear. So what happens for this filter, the way it works is, how should I explain this? Here, let me show you. So the way that this one works is, oh, we got 17 people on the call already. So air comes in through these top grills. Do you see there's like little holes at the top? So air can go through these holes. And then the first layer that it goes through, sorry, I have limited space, is a HEPA filter. So this is like a standard HEPA filter, like a portable filter. And then underneath it, and this, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, this HEPA filter lasts about 6 to 18 months. So you can get like half a year to about a year through just one of these filters, and you can buy replacements. They're available like in a variety of stores. And then it passes through something called a nano-confined catalytic oxidation, or NCCO filter. And I'll explain a little bit more about what this one is, because it's a little bit complicated to explain. But keep in mind, this is not like a carbon filter. Something like this potentially has about 12 years of life. So you're not going to be replacing this anytime soon. You're going to be replacing the HEPA way more often than you will the NCCO. And then the last, I don't know if you can see inside here, is a little computer fan, right? So a little computer fan, it's connected to a 3,200 milliamp hour lithium battery. And that's going to get you roughly about 2 hours of battery life, which for a typical day for our kids, that's more than sufficient. Like I'll talk a little bit about the activities that we do with our kids in a bit. I hope this is making sense. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to pop it into the chat. I'm happy to answer them. And I will show you a little bit about, like, this isn't very loud. It runs off a battery. It's lithium powered, and it's lasted a long time. Like, the kids have not run out of power so far. And like people were wondering, oh, maybe the school wouldn't allow it. You know what? We've run it for a couple days already, and no, there has been no complaints. And I think part of the reason for the lack of complaints is they're actually really quiet. They don't make a lot of noise. And so I'm going to run it for you right now, and then you tell me if you think it's really loud or if you hear it. Okay, so it's on. And it's blowing like directly into my face right now. It's running at approximately, I think it was like 27 decibels. And at high speed, it has two modes. So it has a regular mode, and it has a high speed mode. If you hit that, it turns blue, the bluish color. And it's a little bit louder, which runs at approximately 32 decibels. Which, if you compare to your typical classroom, this is still really, really quiet. I probably have fans just in my house that are that loud, if not louder. So this is something that I've found very useful. In fact, maybe I'll keep it on this entire stream and you won't even notice it. So that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed. So that's I think it's called the Westinghouse 1804 portable filter. It's something that I've tried out. And I think that what I like about this is that it's, well, before I go into that, I have to explain a little bit about some of the like the complicated terms that I was using, and I want to make sure that I don't lose anyone. So I think it's important for me to maybe show you maybe like a video or two. So let me see. Okay, how about this one? This one's a test with smoke. So I hope that this will show up okay. Can you hear it? Let me know into the chat. So this one's with smoke. So I hope that that was pretty clear. Took about 15 seconds roughly, and it was able to filter out smoke in the air. And of course, you're probably wondering, like, come on, like smoke, you got to give me a break. This is not what we're dealing with right now. Although if you have fires in the region, right, like this could be really helpful. And I've noticed that people who have fires, like are in areas with lots of fires, this can make a big difference. So the next was an example with something far smaller. We're dealing with bacteria and the growth of bacteria. And so let's show you the next example. Here we go. Why did it show this stuff? Okay. So I'm sorry, that example wasn't as clear, but it was basically 72 hours with a Petri dish. And just from bacteria in the air, you would notice like a huge amount of bacteria growing in the Petri dish that was exposed to just open air, and like pretty much no bacteria appearing in the example that was exposed to the live, like to the filter. And so it's not enough. Like, I mean, if you are using this in a gymnasium, I don't know like how much of a difference it would make. I always tell my child that like we know that the air comes out from this portion right here. Like it's a sideways fan, so like be close to it. So it would at the very least decrease the concentration of any bacteria that's going in, but it's not perfect. This is not prevent, like this isn't going to destroy everything in the classroom, or it's not strong enough for that. So I'm assuming that you would have to be extremely close, like you would have to be pretty much right there, right near the exhaust of this fan of filtered air, breathing in the filtered air for it to be effective. So again, I'm not sure. I haven't done any scientific tests on this. They're the ones who are doing the scientific tests, so I kind of rely on them. And so the last part I want to show you is a little bit about NCCO, how it works. So essentially what you see in that filter was like a bunch of little tiny balls. And what those are like the nano confined, like basically they're like little nano circle traps. And then what it does is it allows it to connect to oxygen. in order to essentially try to remove things like bacteria or viruses as water and carbon dioxide. Now, I don't know if this is exactly the right solution for it, but from what I can see, it's the results so far seem promising. So we will see how that works. Okay. So are you ready? Let us know. Let's give that a try.
What is NCCO? It is an innovative patented technology in air purification. N stands for nano, which is the unit of measure. It is used for measuring extremely tiny objects like atoms and molecules. 1 nanometer is 100,000 times smaller than the diameter of a human hair. Our catalytic material is a non-poisonous, recyclable mineral material with well-defined nanocavities. C stands for confined. The shape-selective properties of our catalytic material allow their usage in molecular adsorption. Our granule of catalytic material with a diameter of 0.4 cm has around 400 feet of adsorption tunnel. The catalytic material is able to adsorb certain molecules and exclude others. This can result in the efficient removal of certain types of pollutants from the environment. The second C stands for catalytic. There are transition metals impregnated within the porous structure of our catalytic material. The transition metals impregnated inside the catalytic material can enhance the reaction rate between gaseous contaminants and oxidants. O stands for oxidation. Active oxygen is generated and it is able to oxidize gaseous contaminants into non-harmful products such as water molecules and carbon dioxide, which will leave the catalytic material and regenerate another site for the adsorption of pollutants. As a result, the NCCO technology is a sustainable technology which can remove pollutants from the environment by trapping them inside the catalytic material and converting them into non-harmful products.
So I hope the main message of that was clear. It wasn't so much that this is like a revolutionary type of material. It was just that you don't have to replace it. You don't have to replace it all the time because it becomes something that it filters. It tries to attach oxygen molecules to it so that they get released. But we don't know if that's enough for it to make it non-harmful. So that gives you a sense of like how it works. That's why you don't have to replace the filter. It lasts like 6 years or more because of that. So the next thing that I would like to discuss is, okay, so what did I just cover? So we've covered measuring carbon dioxide. We've covered HEPA filters. And now we're going to talk about respirators, not masks. And so I was trying to explain this to my kids, and the way that I came up with explaining it was that masks protect others, while respirators protect you, the wearer. And of course, like there's all of these different names and types of masks out there. You have the CAN99, CAN99E, KN95s, KF94s, and N95. These are all standards that are used in different countries to talk about the level of efficiency of these filters. So the 95 means 95% of anything that is potentially harmful is removed, hopefully enough to make the risk a lot lower. And so for me, the information that I've been using has been information from this guy on Twitter, and I like him a lot. He calls himself the mask nerd, and I think for me, the specific ones that I'm using for our children, because this is about like children in schools, is this one is the CAN99E from Vitacore. And then there is the CAN99 for adults. And so before I talk about like how they perform and blah blah blah, I want you to see the reaction of the mask nerd. And what does he say about this particular mask? Let's go and check it out. Ready?
That is an incredible mask. They meet the spec, that's for sure. Whew. Good job, Vitacore. That's a good mask. I like it. If you're in Canada, get that mask. I'm jealous. I'm a little jealous. I'm not a little jealous, actually. I'm a lot of jealous. Luckily for me, I have a whole box in the basement. Damn, that's a good mask. I like it. It's great. I'll have to hand some of those up. So, if you're in Canada, you have some great mask options right now. Canada Mask, Vitacore. Check out the the Canadian Association of PPE Manufacturers, CAPAM, I think is what it is. They have all the different PPE manufacturers up there that are Canadian made. Those are good masks. My neighbors to the north making good stuff. 2.43 E to the 4. What do we end up with? 99.9. That is awesome. Wow. That's incredible.
Okay, I won't belabor the point. But I think that it kind of makes sense. What he's saying is that the Vitacore masks actually perform better than was the label. So like CAN99 is what they're rated for, but they actually filtered 99.9% of the bacteria. So that's why he was saying like, wow, this is really good. And so like that's another way of seeing it. And so I think the challenge with these masks has been like, well, they're different than a regular mask. In fact, they're a lot harder to potentially put on. Like many of us are used to the ear loop style masks. And so what can we do with these new types that are like most respirators, from what I can see, like my wife even purchased a few KN95 masks. And she said that they're also like this type of band, the band-based respirators. And I don't know if you guys have put on band-based respirators before. Like it took me a few times to learn how to put one of these on. I actually had to watch a video on YouTube. Actually, oh, you know what? I can actually show you the video, I'm sure. How to put on a Vitacore mask. Yes. I think that it was really helpful. Yes, this one. So maybe I'll just show it to you instead of doing a live demonstration.
Remove the respirator from the package and hold with the Vitacore logo facing up. Open the top and bottom flaps fully by pinching the bottom flap and the top flap and unfolding. Bend the nose piece around your thumb as you do this. Be careful not to touch the inside of the mask while unfolding. Place the respirator on your face with the nose piece on the bridge of your nose and the bottom panel securely under your chin. Pull the top strap over your head and position it high on the back of your head. Once secure, pull the bottom strap over your head and position it below your ears around your neck. Make sure the mask is resting comfortably on your face by adjusting the straps, ensuring the panels are unfolded and securely in place. Make sure that nothing interrupts the seal of your mask. Hair, jewelry, or clothing can disrupt the seal. Using the fingertips from both hands, press the metal nose piece from the bridge of your nose down to the sides, molding the nose piece to the shape of your nose for a tight seal. Check the seal of your respirator each time you don your mask by placing one or both hands over the center panel. Breathe in and out sharply. Be careful not to shift the respirator. If air is leaking around the nose, adjust the nose piece by pressing down. If air is leaking from the sides of the mask, adjust the head straps, making sure that the respirator fits snugly against the face. When finished with your respirator, remove by pulling the bottom strap over the back of the head, followed by the top strap, without touching the face piece. Discard in a waste container and clean your hands with alcohol-based hand sanitizer or soap and water. Vitacor, keeping Canadian frontline workers safe.
Okay. So that one, I hope is clear. Though I think the main concept behind it is that the tightness of basically you want everything sealed so that you're completely breathing through the mask instead of the air filtering through the tops and the sides. Like you can imagine a regular surgical mask as like really good so you don't spit on somebody accidentally. So it's really good for preventing that. But when it comes to the air, it's designed to like let air come through the tops and bottoms and through the sides. But this one is not. And so really to get that tight of a fit, you need something pulling from the bottom in order to keep like the tightness on the chin. And then you need something pulling from the bottom on your neck in order to pull off the top so that there's a tight fit on the very top of the mask. And that is the difference between a respirator and a regular mask from my understanding. Now, I'm not an expert on this, but what I can say is I just listen to what the experts say. And so that's really the key thing is like listen to the experts. They know what they're talking about. And if they tell us like, hey, this is what we need to get, and like this is kind of what I'm doing. Now, for the kids' masks, they are the ear loop type. You can see like the CA-N99E, the children's ones. And I've noticed that it is harder to get a tight fit for the kids' masks. So what can we do? So what I've noticed is that they are consistently hard to fit in the same way. So what I mean by that is this is the top of the mask. So you open the mask like this, right? And so this is the top of the kids' masks, and this is the bottom. And I'm noticing that it's loose around the chin, around that side of for my kids. And so what can we do to get them tighter? So what I've done, like I know some people you can buy like a little piece of plastic. I didn't do that. What I found works for me is you can like knot this anywhere. And so what I've done is I fold the sides of the mask down, like through the sides, like this. I fold it like this, and then I tie like a little knot around it. And I have found that this works really well. And when my kids are wearing it, it fits more of the way, like their shape of their faces. And so getting this to fit tight was tricky. It was very loose to begin with. And I tried to just fold it in right in the middle. So if I just took it sideways and I folded it like this, it would be very tight on the top and not very tight on the bottom. And so the solution was just to fold the loop down and then tie it right here on this side. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I'm happy to explain it for you. So making these bands fit well for your kids is not easy. And then another question is, okay, well, let's say you have these masks. They cost a little bit more. So they're not like $1. I think you can get like a KN95 for like $1.50 Canadian. And I think that one of these masks is more like $3 each, $2-3 a piece. So if you wanted to reuse them, is there a way that you can do that? And so I find it hard to find like really good like documentation on how people clean masks. Like, what are you supposed to do? Do I just leave it in the air? Do I just, I've seen videos where somebody like bakes it, like they put some water in and then they bake it to a high temperature. I'm like, I do not have time for that. Sorry. And so my one solution, and I can't remember where I read this, but now that I'm familiar, okay, well, anyways, so one recommendation, and I don't know what other people are saying, but what I've read is that you can clean it with something called like hydrogen peroxide, vaporized hydrogen peroxide is what it's called. And I think I've included a link to that as well. So basically, it's like a spray bottle. You can spray it, and for the most part, it helps to sanitize. I don't know how effective it is, but they said that you could reuse a mask maybe 3-4 times if you were using that method. And so if that's what they say, like I looked at other things like, oh, could you use like a UV lamp or something? Like honestly, I have no idea what really works. And I figured, well, like spraying it like a few times, the important thing here is finding a safe one, because if you have like too high a concentration, it could irritate the skin. And so I was thinking it would be a good idea to have one that allows you to describe it, like is food grade. So you could even eat it. Like you could use it to like, clean fruits or something, and it would still be fine. So if that's good enough for eating, that's kind of my criteria for, okay, is it safe for kids? Probably safe for kids. Okay, so I hope that made sense. That is, just to recap, that was AirSafe Tech, technology that was designed to keep the air safe for us and for our children. I covered so many different things. I covered different things like measuring carbon dioxide, doing HEPA filters. We also talked a little bit about respirators, not masks. So I hope that was all clear. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to pop it into the chats. I'm trying to follow along as we go. And maybe I'll, while I'm doing that, I'll give you a little bit of a description of what I'm trying to do. So if you're joining us for the first time, my name is Dr. Ed, and I'm just a geek parent who is really worried about the future for our children. And what I love to do is look at different types of tools, how technology is changing, how the world of work is changing. And lately, I've been getting into coaching change makers and helping them convert their passions into sustainable change through entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship in particular. And so if this is something that you're interested in learning a little bit more about tech, a little bit more about change making, then you're on the right channel. Now, if you only care about tech, I mean, this is also like a really interesting channel for you as well, because I cover so many things. When it comes to like geeking out, you are in the right place. So for me, I plan to stream lively. I plan to stream every week at this time, probably for a long time. So, come back next week. I'll be around. We are here to like see whatever comments that you have and any ways that we can get involved to see how we can help. Oop, I'm probably making some noise here. Oh, no, I'm not. Yay, I muted it. Okay, yay. Okay, great. Yes. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears a little bit because we've been talking about all this tech. I think it's time to talk a little bit about AirSafe kids activities. Because at the end of the day, you could have the best tech in the world, and if you don't have the buy-in of your kids, you can forget about every precaution that you've introduced. And I think that this, more than the tech itself, is the real challenge for a lot of parents, adults, etc. They don't see why. They are not engaged into how this is beneficial. I don't know what it's going to take. Is it going to take showing them a really scary image of a child on a respirator, like on a breathing machine? Is it going to be fun activity? My approach has been, let's use the fun activities. Why not, right? Like let's engage them. Let's make it fun for them. And then they're going to be much more likely to do it. And so I showed them the videos that I showed you before, so they get an understanding of like how it works. So it's kind of like science, right? It's kind of like a little scientific activity. And one of the things that we did, so I don't know if you saw when I first showed the filter, you probably saw, oh, there's something on here, right? What is there? So there is the HEPA filter is decorated. And I got the kids to decorate it because that helps them know which parts to point to themselves. So for example, Mando, the Mandalorian here, actually points directly to where the fan comes out. They want to make sure that the fan is facing them. So Mando is always upright. That makes things way easier for the kids to remember. There's nothing to remember here. And you can see the ATST. The ATST is up on the right corner, right where the power button is. Because when they have this on their desk and it's like sitting just like that, they have no idea, like, how do I orient this? Where do I, like, there's all this confusion. Orient it this way towards yourself. Where's the button? The button is close to where the sticker is. So it's just a simple visual reminder, and that's really helpful for kids. So how do we do this? You can see I purchased a small, tiny little carabiner, and we can just attach their lunchbox onto the side here. I just tell them to hold it, right? Like hold it from the filter, because the lunchbox weighs nothing compared to the filter, and that has been very helpful for them. Very helpful. And so that was like a kind of a little activity. So what we do is we've been practicing turning on, like, so we at home, we did a little activity where we practiced turning on the filter, the HEPA filter on high before removing their respirators. I need to do a visual of this. So how does this work? So this is the kid's respirator. Right? So they have it on, then they make sure that they turn on the filter onto high. You can see it's on high, so which is the blue color. And then they can take off the respirator. And then they, of course, like they practice having like a fake lunch, and then they practice putting it back on and then turning off the filter. And so it's very clear what the process is, how to like keep them as safe as possible. So that is like kind of an extreme, maybe a different approach, but that is a way of doing it. And when they're at home, what has worked really well for us has been, there is a plug. So we teach them, we taught the kids, and my oldest is in grade 3, youngest is in kindergarten. So if they're going to school, I suspect that they should be able to do this on their own. Basically, they are trained to remove the carabiner from the lunchbox. So use the lunchbox to separate the two. They separate the HEPA and they connect it to the charger, so it's always charging, ready for the next day. And they practice like putting their lunchbox in the sink so that it's ready to be washed for the next day. And so I don't know how you guys do it, but do they have a good video of this? I don't know. Yes, they do. So my kids are really into the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I don't want to get too much. I'll turn off the audio, but like many of you have seen it. Like they have like an entire like 3 series on just the Power Rangers. Like they have a version, like this one is the Dino version. They've got like a version that is for ninjas that they're watching. Like they are all over it. And so how does the Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, connect with what I'm talking about? Well, when it comes to motivating the kids to wear respirators, I call them the mighty, like this morning, we just made this up, right? Like we called them the Mighty Morphin HEPA Rangers. They have this saying, like they're like, mighty HEPA respirators activate. And I thought that was really cute. They also connect to the HEPA grid, and it's HEPA time. Was things that they would typically say in the show, just like they would say it's morphin time or connect to the morphing grid or something. So it's a way of connecting it to things that they know. They know that when they go to school, they need to transform who they are. They need to transform into this superhero. And there's all this process, like they gotta bring out the sword, they got to change their costume, they've got to like turn some kind of key. There's all of these things that they have to do. And in order to make it relevant to them, I thought it was very important to connect the fun activities that they're already doing, watching these shows. And like we have to admit, like, you know, we're binging just like everybody else over the Christmas break. It's connecting like what they watch to this practice, so that they learn it. And I think it's something that is a way of making it more fun for them, making it more engaging for them. It's something that I really love to do. And I think that it's something that to me, like I feel like it comes naturally. Like this is how I've learned it from when I was young, that I used to think like creativity only applies to such a small, narrow area. But over time, just realizing that like, oh man, creativity applies to everything, like everything that we do. Especially when it comes to our kids, we absolutely have to be creative in terms of getting the practice. It doesn't matter how good the technology is. If you don't get the buy-in from your kids, you might as well not have it. And I think that that's like, we had to make it into games. We had to connect it to what they loved. We had to get them to see themselves as a different person. And so like, can you imagine like being a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger is really cool, right? Like you want to become one of those Power Rangers. Why not? You know, I think that getting them into this mode that they're a different person, that they're no longer just, you know, so-and-so going to school. They're a Power Ranger going to school. And they have all of this equipment, this technology, but they've got to use it responsibly. We say in our household, with great responsibility comes great power. Kind of the inverse of the Spider-Man saying that with great power comes great responsibility. And the reason we say it is because that's really what this is all about, right? Like if you can control, you can be really great at the responsibility side, there is very little that you can't succeed on in terms of like your life and your achievements. And so we're not only getting them like to be a little bit more safe, we are building the skills that they're going to need to succeed like long-term in the future. We're building that resilience. We're building all of the really important things that they need. Oh, yay, I have a follower. Gerber started following. Yes, awesome. Thank you very much for following, Holt. I really appreciate it. So to me, this relates to one of my last points, which I think is a good way of concluding for today, which is we talk about air-safe mindsets. And at the beginning of my talk, and if you missed it, no worries, what I was talking about was just I was angry when we first got the announcements. And I was rage tweeting, you know, with everyone else. Like I felt very upset. And to me, it wasn't helping. It was not helping my own mindset. It wasn't solving the problem. It was just making things worse. And I think that this was really the most important thing, was like in this time where every single thing around us is changing like constantly, right? Like you never know. I've heard it described as COVID is dropping new tracks on a regular basis. It's dropping a new track. It's got new variants. It's got like some kind of like specialty or some kind of difference to it. You know, this one's super transmissible and it's overwhelming our medical systems. And I think that what they're saying is that in this time, your creativity is your superpower. And the constraints that exist are part of the fun of creativity. You cannot control. There's a bunch of things that are completely outside of your control. Trust me, like I want to be, like I would love to be able to have influence at the ministerial level. I would love to have influence at the district level. I have none of that right now. Like I was a school council chair. I had influence there. I'm not even a school council chair right now. So really, like my domain of influence is limited to just being a parent and just speaking to all of you as well. And I see that as a huge honor because we have an opportunity. Like I love to like come up with creative ideas together. I love to build things. And I'm hoping that we're going to build some really awesome things together over this next little while. It's part of the fun of creativity. And so we, instead of treating and this is something that I've noticed as well. Maybe it's just like my own personality, but creativity for me has always been very important. And we do find that it is these types of like very creative individuals that during a time of crisis becomes this really strong time of innovation as well. We can think like during the previous financial crisis, this is when we had the creation of Uber, of Airbnb, of all of these new types of technologies that are impacting our world, like Zoom. Zoom was something that was a big part of the previous like financial crisis. And so in this time, you have to be asking the questions that how are people adapting? Like I'm so interested and fascinated by all of this because I know that it makes a big difference. People are really impacting each other. They're really thinking about things in new ways. Like even during this time, like companies like Facebook are changing their name to Meta. There's a lot of focus on the metaverse at this time. There's also like NFTs. There's this whole new world of freelance. More and more of our young children are involved in the freelance economy. In fact, over half of Gen Z workers are freelancing today. And so it means that we need to think differently. We need your creativity. In fact, your creativity is your superpower. It is how you can have an impact on other people, and we want you to have an impact on others. And so, you know, I am so thankful for you guys for joining me today. But really, these are just a few samplings of ideas from like a geek dad who just loves researching stuff, buying little toys, much to the chagrin of our spouses. We often say, and this is like typical, like if you're like a change maker or if you're a leader, you often like your spouses are like, oh my God, you're doing this again. And I think that really the thing that I learned from this was that last year I did like almost a live stream every single week. And with the live stream, I noticed that it was the same people who kept coming over and over again, week over week. And what they were attracted to, like these were not, I thought it originally was like, oh, it's just parents who are going to be attending. But no, it was a very specific subset of the parent community. And it was the subset that was very interested in making change. It was change makers. It was leaders. It was activists. And these are people who, like, we're starting to see nowadays, perhaps now more than ever, how much politics, like how much decisions by others impact our daily lives. Everything I talked about today is impacted directly by the decisions that are made outside of our control. And there are ways that we can be involved. There are ways that we can influence that. And my goal with sharing some of these tools that I find really fun is to help give you the tools to become one of those change makers. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to have this protest, I'm going to do something really big all of a sudden, and then it's going to create a ton of change. But that's not really true. The reason it's not true is because change takes time. It takes a long time. And you need to be ready to go in for the long haul. And so if you don't have a way of sustaining change, well, change is not going to happen. Like what's going to happen eventually is you're going to burn out. And I don't want you to burn out. I actually feel that we need more people like you to make that the direct change. And that's one of the reasons why I want to see more of these types of tools. Like I see them all as, these are just tools, right? Like they're tools of instruction. These are just like props that I'm using really just to explain things to you. But really the change comes from you. It comes from your actions. I don't know how many people in your school are doing these kinds of things, like going out and like getting an ARANET 4 and measuring the CO2 levels inside your school in order to reach to the school board. If you are doing that, more power to you. Please join our community, right? Like we have the hashtag COVID is airborne. There's like the CAP EM, I think he was referring to as well, like the Canadian makers of PPA. So CANPPEM. There are so many great communities that you can be involved with, and I think Fresh Air Schools Alberta is like another one that you can be involved with. Amanda Hu is like a great advocate for this stuff. Krista Lee, she's a really great advocate for this stuff as well. So like all of these people, go find them on Twitter. You'll love them. And I think that like keep these things in mind. People are making change. People are going in. They are measuring what's happening at schools. They are understanding the reality. They are taking in more information. They are not sitting by and just letting stuff happen to them. They are going out and understanding what the reality is. They're understanding what change looks like, and they're demonstrating this change with their own children, with their own families. And that's where change really starts. It doesn't start with changing everything, like, oh, I'm going to change the Ministry of Education, or I'm going to change like my entire district. It starts with you in your home, with your child, with your own family, advocating for what you think is going to keep them safe. And so I would encourage you to do that. Like, just be there. Understand that not everybody's going to believe it. When I ran for school trustee, man, there were a lot of people who, like, they didn't believe the science. And of course, as technologists, like we are becoming more and more divisive in our politics and our policy, because of these social media bubbles that we are constantly being exposed to. We don't know what to believe anymore because of the type of media that we spend all of our time watching. And I think that it is really we're talking about like partisan to the point of radicalization. Was something that I read, and I'll cover a little bit more about Andrew Yang's recent book, Forward, in my next live stream or the live stream after this. It's a good book. I'd highly recommend it, and it helps us understand a little bit about where we are and how difficult making change is for somebody who was in politics and really experienced all of those things of like running a campaign, and even when you do run are successful, how hard is it to make change? Like, what are all the barriers? And having run as a trustee for the Calgary Catholic Schools in the October election, taught me so much about what do people care about, what are their perspectives on various things, and you have everybody like from all different aspects. And I think the reality is there's more similarity between our perspectives than we might want to admit. We're all tired, we're all overwhelmed, we're all in this same boat. We want this to end. We want it to end tomorrow, but we have different approaches for how that's going to happen. And I think that if we can start to understand like this kind of common ground, and like what I've been told is that like common ground is kind of something that they don't try to encourage right now. Like if you're a politician and you kind of hit the middle road, you will be like, there will be another person who's much more on the extreme who will essentially knock you out. And so you're forced into this like extreme level of partisanship in order to maintain your position based on the way politics is today. But without getting too much into that world of politics, I want to be very conscious of we're kind of at the end of the hour, and my plan was to run approximately an hour each one of these live streams. I ran a little bit late. But before we go, I do want to encourage you, go and visit my website. It is edwardtse.com, edwardtse.com. And the reason I want you to check it out is because if you go to, actually a better website would be edwardtse.com /live. I want to add you to my upcoming mail list. And the reason I want to do this is I want to let you know about our upcoming live streams, what topics we're going to cover. I want to share with you some of the previous courses that I have created, specifically around AI and parenting. And I also want to share a little bit of some of the experiences that I had trying to create change myself as a school trustee, as a candidate for school trustee and as a school council chair for the largest online school in Alberta. It was the St. Isidore Online School. We had 5,700 students in that school. And since it was an online school, it was I was like the founding school council chair for that. So I care very much about change makers. I've learned that, and I've learned that they tend to like to follow me, and then they tend to come back again and again. And I want to encourage you, like there are ways that you can create your movements, sustain them, that can really generate tangible change. And if you see this as a game of like sustaining rather than a game of like doing the battle, like if you see this as the war and not the current battle, you will see things very differently. And you will see that, yeah, you do need to make some revenue off of this. You do need to start thinking about social entrepreneurship. I do think that we need more people who are passionate enough to create a social enterprise, but they need to have like funnels. They need to like bring people in. And so the whole goal for today, I don't think I make like nearly anything off whatever you buy. I don't have like sponsorships or anything, but if you want to learn a little bit more about change making, you want to learn a little bit about how to use tech towards your advantage, edwardtse.com /live. Start learning about the latest live streams. I am working on a new book, and I'm excited about it. I will tell you a little bit more about it next time. But it's really focused on this new generation of change, Gen Z. And I'm going to talk a little bit about I'm going to talk a lot more about going from like passions to profits, to go from an activism to the social enterprise. I haven't come up with a good rhyme for that one. I'll work on it. I'll work on it for next time. But if you want to follow me, I would encourage you to do so. And as always, I'm here, right? Like I'm going to make myself available weekly because I want to hear what your perspectives are. Was this session helpful for you? Is there something else that you wanted to learn? If you do, I would really encourage you, go to edwardc.com/live. And so that is where I'm going to hopefully see some of you, /live. And next week, my current plan is to talk a little bit more about somebody who has influenced me a lot. I read his first book, The War on Normal People, 2 years ago, and now I am reading his book, The Humanity, or he calls it Forward, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I had learned from the book, share a little bit, and then dive a little bit deeper into what some of the next steps are for our live streams and what this could be. With that said, I want to thank you all for your time. I hope you have a great evening, and I'm looking forward to the change that you're going to create. Thank you. Have a great night.